So what do we got this last little stretch here?
Well, we got in at 2 a.m. last night from the great state of Georgia. We had a full day of campaigning in Georgia after Madison Square Garden on Sunday, which was an epic event. Today, President Trump is off to more states. He'll be in more states on Thursday. He's literally traveling all over the country, hitting every single battleground state, Pennsylvania, Georgia again. He'll be in North Carolina, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin all over the next 7 days. So it's a busy schedule. We've been doing this now for 60 days straight. The president has not taken one day off, and he won't be taking any time off between now and Election Day. We are laser focused on winning.
Not that none of that's great or special, but is there any other Madison Square Garden thing coming this weekend? Is there any other arenas? Any other noticeable thing like that?
Rally after rally after rally will be taking place in every state or every battleground state, and he'll be doing multiple rallies a day.
Okay. You say we got in at 2 a.m. What does in mean? In where?
Into home. We landed. We landed in Palm Beach last night, very late.
So is it always end at home, or does it just end at the nearest hotel of the last stop?
Well, for me and for many of our campaign team, we did relocate to Palm Beach. So Palm Beach is home for us now. So many of us have places here that we've lived in throughout the course of the campaign.
Really? So every night you guys go back to Florida?
Most nights. It depends, where we are in the country. If he's on the West Coast and doing an Arizona and Nevada swing, then typically he'll stay in Vegas at his hotel. If we're in Michigan or Wisconsin, sometimes we'll overnight in Chicago at Trump Hotel. Oftentimes we're in New York, like we were in New York, Saturday night and Sunday night. But many times, yes, we do return to Florida. It's President Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago, and who doesn't like to sleep in their own bed, even if it's just for 4 hours?
Yeah. I was going to say, it's not. Is that worth it? For even just the 4 hours? Geez, that is.
Well, it makes it a little easier too when you have your own plane. And Trump Force One is a comfortable ride.
Yeah, no, that's good. So Kamala's big speech is today, right? At the Ellipse. What is the symbolism here, Karoline?
Yeah, Kamala giving her closing remarks today at the place where she thinks is the most effective for her campaign. I think we would respectfully disagree with that. I think going to a small business that's struggling or going to the southern border might be a better closing message because that's what people actually care about. But Kamala's out of touch. Her closing message is that President Trump is a fascist, which is obviously not true. It's a lie. It's dangerous rhetoric. It's dividing the country. It's dishonest. Kamala doesn't even believe it. She just can't run on policy. She can't run on her record. She's been a disaster. So President Trump is actually giving remarks today at Mar-a-Lago, 10 o'clock this morning. He'll be speaking to the press and countering Kamala Harris's message before she gives it and driving home the sharp contrast between him and his closing message, which is very simple. Kamala broke it. President Trump is going to fix it. She broke the border, broke our economy, broke our standing in the world. Only President Trump has the solutions, and you'll hear him talk about that at 10 o'clock this morning. I encourage everyone to tune in.
So is that a new, I don't want to say talking point, little mantra or a little the Kamala broke it, Trump will fix it? I just saw that ad. It was a great ad. We played it earlier. The imagery is perfect in it, and the messaging is perfect, spot on. 60 seconds, couldn't be better. Was that a new crafting, a new final release here at the last couple days?
Yeah, look, it's the closing argument. I think it makes it very simple for voters, right? You can't reelect someone who created the problem in hopes that they will solve the problem. She has a chance to solve it right now. She's sitting, she and Joe Biden sit in the White House. They could craft policy. They could secure the border with the sign of a pen. They've refused to do so for 4 years now and have allowed this open border invasion to continue. So Kamala's running to fix the country that she broke, and it just doesn't work. It's like hiring the arsonist to put out the fire. So it is our closing message, and we think it's a winning one based on polling. And President Trump, again, will be sharing that all over the country over the next 7 days.
So they're calling him Hitler stuff. We talked earlier about this New York Times article from the Future Forward PAC that says attacking Trump's fascism is not that persuasive. Also, Trump is exhausted isn't working. So they can't find their legs in this last little bit here. But on the calling him Hitler stuff, go ahead. You can speak to that.
Well, I was just going to say, they're trying to convince people not to believe their own eyes. They've done this with the border. They did it with the economy. They said Bidenomics was working. They said the border was secure. Now they're trying to say that the president was exhausted. It's just total BS. People see him campaigning all over the country, holding massive rallies at Madison Square Garden and in every state. Their message is not based on reality, and that's why it's failing. That's my advice to them, but they're not going to take it.
Yeah, so I think it's this calling Trump Hitler thing. I think it's threefold. First, it's to scare voters. In the meantime, I think it's also a message. Hey, will someone just murder this guy already? Right? He's Hitler. Be Bonhoeffer and just kill him. And then I think it's used to justify violence after the election. So maybe Trump can win, but we're never going to let Hitler actually in the Oval Office. Like that's insane from their perspective. What do you make of those?
I think you're spot on with all three of those. And I think it's disgusting that this is their closing pitch. And it's what the Democrat Party has turned into, the anti-Trump party, not the party that stands for anything. And they just stand against Donald Trump, and they spread these lies. And you know how they know it's lies and they don't actually believe themselves is because if you look at Democrats in blue wall states, Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota, where President Trump is either leading or closing the gap, Democrats that are running for Senate or the House in those states are running ads cozying up to President Trump, saying that they worked with him on legislation. You don't cozy up to Hitler, okay? And that's how you know they don't actually believe this lie. They are using it, as you said, to try to fear voters into voting for them because they can't convince them on sound policy. It's really quite sad, but it's very dangerous, and it's dividing our country, and it has already led to 2 assassination attempts on President Trump's life, which makes it all the world even worse.
Yeah, so someone had a funny line. I'm going to word it wrong, but it was something like they don't really think he's Hitler because if they did, they'd vote for him. Like all the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas people, they wish Hitler were in, right? They're voting for the people who want to kill all the Jews in Israel. So, or they're supporting those efforts in the Middle East. You mentioned these battleground states. Joe Biden won New Hampshire by 7 points in 2020, and there's a new poll that has New Hampshire tied right now. So add New Hampshire to the list here. But more important than New Hampshire, Karoline Leavitt, press secretary of Donald Trump, what are the president's thoughts on Puerto Rico?
Well, first thing on New Hampshire, nothing's more important than New Hampshire. To me, it's my home state, and I'm so excited to see the polling, by the way. The president is very excited about the state of the race in New Hampshire. We did a big tele-rally there yesterday, calling thousands of voters directly with President Trump live on the line, and he was encouraging them to get out to vote. This was, by the way, in between stops in Georgia, in the motorcade, on the way. He did another telephone town hall last night at 10:30 p.m. The man literally never stops working. And look, as for Puerto Rico, I was there at Madison Square Garden. It was a joke made by a comedian. It fell flat because it was done in poor taste. Obviously, the joke does not reflect the views of the campaign or President Trump. But again, it was a joke made by a comedian. The rest of the night was filled with amazing speakers, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Tucker Carlson, Dana White, the president's friends and family, congressmen and women, Senator J.D. Vance, all there talking about how important it is to reelect President Trump. It was a diverse crowd of people. Puerto Ricans were there. Many other Hispanic Americans were there. Black Americans, Jewish Americans. There were Arab Americans and Muslims. I mean, it was truly a broad coalition, proving the broad coalition that President Trump has built on this campaign. And I think the people that were in the room that night understood that it was just a joke. And while it fell flat, it has no reflection of President Trump or his views. The media is making this into something because they want it to turn into something, because they have nothing else to talk about. They don't want to talk about the real issues impacting people's lives in Kamala Harris's America.
Literally all they talked about on cable news yesterday. And they brought in AOC. AOC's been really silent this entire campaign. And they brought her in because she's Puerto Rican. So let's bring in a Puerto Rican person to talk about how horrible this is, what was said at the Trump rally. And then the other one that they're using is Grant Cardone said we need to slaughter these people.
We need to slaughter this other people. We need to bring 100 million votes to Donald Trump.
These people it's unbelievable that there is no human being alive who would hear Grant Cardone say we need to slaughter these people clearly within the context of getting more votes. and conclude, oh, there's the fascist, there's the fascism, there's the Nazism right there wide in the open. What is wrong with these people?
Well, they take everything that President Trump and our people say out of context. I mean, you saw it with the bloodbath hoax. President Trump was referring to the auto industry. They tried to say that he wanted to create a bloodbath. Again, it goes back to fear. Fear is their tactic. Division is their tactic. Dividing people based on race and gender works for them because that's the only way they can get people out to the polls to vote for them because, again, their policies are horrible. But, again, the media wants to talk about this stuff all day. We are keeping focused on bringing our message to voters because when you look at the polling, President Trump is more popular today in 2024 than he's ever been since 2016. And it's despite all of the lies and all of the hoaxes and all of the times the fake news has taken him out of context over the years.
Last question for you. CNN, their poll guy, talked about some polls of voter enthusiasm. And he said that among those who are extremely motivated to vote, in 2020 it was 73%. 73% were extremely motivated. And he said today it's 65%. So an 8-point drop in those who are extremely motivated. I don't know what that means. I guess the question is who, if that number is true, who are the people who are less motivated? Are they disaffected Republicans, disaffected Democrats, independents? I don't know. Who do you think are the people who are not as motivated?
I would say Democrats. I mean, how can you be motivated for someone who you didn't even vote for? You never had a chance to cast a vote for in a primary. Kamala Harris was just handed this job after the Democrat Party staged a coup against the incumbent president, Joe Biden. And she's been a train wreck of a candidate. You see the enthusiasm for President Trump everywhere we go, and it also is reflected in early voting. We are leading the early vote in North Carolina. It's been a 19-point swing to Republicans since 2020. There's been a 20-point swing in early voting in Pennsylvania for Republicans. Republicans are dominating the early vote in Nevada on the first day of early voting in Clark County, which is obviously a must-win. Republicans led by 19 points. And so we're seeing this, again, this trend in every battleground state that Republicans are heeding President Trump's calls to get out, to vote early, to bank their vote, and to give them more time to encourage other Americans to do the same. So I think the early voting metrics show the enthusiasm for President Trump. People are excited to get to the polls and cast their ballot for him. In 7 days, we're very confident we're going to win this election. So I'll tell you, there's a lot of enthusiasm at Trump campaign headquarters right now. The vibes are good. We're not taking anything for granted. We're going to win, and we're going to run through the tape.